Hello, hello, hello. It's Shirley Ross, Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and it is Coffee and Cards Tuesday. So this is the second card that I did in August. It again is a fun fold. It flips up and then open. I think it's very beautiful. I used a different stamp set with this. One of them was retired. And so I'm going to again use my small business as I'm finishing up making the couple of kits I had left over. I create 10 kits. Usually we have anywhere from 6 to 10 people, so I want to always make sure I have enough for anybody who might show up that hadn't RSVP'd. So I only had a couple left this time, but I thought this is a cool time to share with you on how to create them. So I'm going to put this one to the side, and I'm going to pull over. I always put the card kits in the envelope, and then I number them in the upper corner. And I'm going to pull out the card base, and the card base is 8.5 by 5.5, and then on the front side, you're just going to cut from, you'll score it at 4 1/4, and then you'll just cut at the 4 1/4 score line to the bottom corner of the front. It's not that hard to do. Let me just share real quick. This I wasn't planning on doing, so I didn't have it ready, sorry. But you'll just place the card base in the trimmer so that the score line is in the track and the bottom corner of the card is in the track. And then you'll just bring your trimmer down and cut it. It's pretty easy. It's also an easy card to make on the Cricut. The difference is this, I used the 8.5 by 11 paper, so I just had to cut it in half, score it, and then do the cut. And I didn't have a lot of leftovers, where when you do it on the Cricut, sometimes you have a lot of leftover. So it's just up to you. Now, I am using some of the old retired close to my heart card bases. I'm almost finished with those, but I always like to say use what you have first. So I've got the card base ready. Then you'll have a piece that is, I believe, 3 by 8. We're going to fold that in half. Now I didn't crease this one because sometimes when I'm just folding in half, it's easier to do it this way. I'm not real good always at hitting the right section on the score, and then it gets crooked and you have to kind of straighten it up. So folding it in half, just making sure you have it even at the bottom, and then I like to crease it in the middle before I use the bone folder to side. All right, the next thing is I'm using the Wildly Flowering paper collection, so I'm using the smaller print. You could use either side. They're both very pretty. Moody Mauve was my color for last month. Shaded Spruce is the color of the month for this month. I'm just going to throw that out there. Then I have a piece of Moody Mauve, and I have it just 1/8 of an inch bigger. This is going to be 4 I made this 5 1/8 by 3 7/8, and then this one is at 5 1/4 by 4. So that is just a smaller smidgen in. I don't normally do 8s, but I'm getting to where I kind of like just having that little slight mat around it. Then another piece, which is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. And then, of course, we're going to do these pieces. Now, I just took a 5 1/4 by 4-inch piece and cut it because I'm going to have it cover the whole, most of the whole front. Again, just a very small smidgen of a covering there. And again, this I just cut a square and then cut it in quarters. And then on this piece, now this is where I kind of messed up. I did a 5 5 1/8 by a 3 7/8 piece and cut it in half. But when you're cutting in half, be careful which one you cut, because which direction, whether you cut from this angle or that angle, because when you cut the way I did this one, then when I go to turn it over to fit this, it is not the same pattern. So it just depends on which pattern you want to go on the front. I hope that made sense. All right, so I'm going to first attach all my matted pieces. And again, this is just going to have like an 1/8 of an inch piece showing. And I'm going to go ahead and put that on. And again, it's just going to be a very small amount of the card base showing. Especially since this is a bright white and the other parts of the card are the basic white. Stampin' Up's basic white. It's not white white. I call it a winter white. Now we are coming out with white willow, which is was the old Close to My Heart white daisy. I'm so glad that Stampin' Up is bringing that out, and it will be a white. So I can't wait to get my hands on that, and it will be in the 12 by 12 size. And then I'm just going to center this one. Now this one's going to have more of the full size, and I think this is really a 1/16 of an inch, where this is more of your 1/8 of an inch. I am not good with math. I'm going to tell you that now. The reason I put that down first is because this is actually going to go on top of it. So we are going to add our matted piece. This is just going to be the background for the sentiment. Now you could use a pattern piece on this too. I chose to just use the solid Moody Mauve on it. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach it. And I want it to be centered. Don't stick yet. I want it to be centered in here. There we go. So then when it closes, that can go over the top. All right, so now we're going to do our stamping. I could have stamped first. That way you always have 2 shots, but I didn't. So let's get our Moody Mauve ink out. And again, open it like it's a compact for those of you who use compacts. All right, then I'm using from my small business, I'm using the Thank You. And I'm going to ink it up. You can see, you can look through it and see that it's inked well. And this is a large sentiment. It's going to pretty much fill up this whole tag. Beautiful. All right, and I'm going to, since I'm using blocks today and not my Misty, I'm going to spritz up my scrubber, which I keep at the top of my table. So if you see my arm, sorry. So I cleaned that one. It's ready to go back in. We'll go ahead and open the stamp set so I can put them in as I finish the card. I think I'll leave it out. I might do this a second video on my Facebook group. Okay. So now we're going to do the inside, and since I'm making this a thank you for the customers who purchase from me, I am going to add a little thank you for being a super, there it is, a good reason to have multiple stamps so they can all be out at the same time. There we are. Thank you for being an amazing customer. Now, it's ready to close up. Let's finish with our tag piece. And this is going to sit like this. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to use some twine. As you can see in the original, I did. And this, if I'm not mistaken, is from the neutral twine, I believe. Now I'm going to tie it in a bow, and I'm going to do what I call my loop. I call them bunny ears, but not everybody likes it. But you'll make 2 loops and just tie a knot with those 2 loops. I find that makes a very nice bow that lays flat, especially when you want to mail that. Tighten it up and then just adjust the loops until they're the size you want. Pull this other one behind so that they both come down. There we go. And then I have my fabric scissors, my fiber scissors. I always use the same scissors when I'm cutting fiber or fabric ribbons. They stay sharp. You don't want to use them on paper. Put the lid back on. Now I get a lot of these pop dots with my paper pumpkin. This one is kind of large, so hang on, let me grab my... I try to use up what I have when I get those. I'm going to use a micro dot. These are some of the old close to my heart dots that I have. All right, and I believe they're going to be on this side of the... I know I've seen everybody do that little tape thing with the... You put a piece of ribbon on it and tie it around. Unfortunately, this one, the ribbon, the dots are on the outside, and it didn't work real well to do the ribbon thing for me. All right, so I picked it off with the pick. Now, I'm not going to put it right in the circle because it's got a glue dot on it. I want it to be as close to the circle. But if you put it right on the circle, then you might accidentally close your card with the glue dot because you don't want it to stick through to the other side when you go to close the card. All right, so then I'm going to put this here. Now, if I wanted to, I could do some stamping on here to give it some texture. I did not do that. Let me close the ink because I am notorious for putting my items in the ink without thinking about it. Now, you're only going to need to put adhesive on this side here because it's going to hang over the edge, and you can put it high, low, wherever you want. You could add some sprigs of floral elements, but there you are. This is done, and now I will take the envelope because you always have to do the envelope. All right, now I'll reopen the ink because I've put everything else away, and I am going to do, this one says, handmade for you. And I'm going to put it on the back here. And then on the front, I'm going to add these little hearts. I always think it's cool to send a card that has a pretty envelope. And that way, whoever gets the card, when they first see it, the envelope, they're going to think, oh, there's something special in there. So I hope you enjoyed the class today. And I will see you again soon. Bye, this is Shirley Ross, Stampin' Up! Demonstrator.